Hello, everyone, and welcome to this transformative live session from Healing Motherhood. I am Tshegofatso, and I'm incredibly honored to be your guide in exploring this profound and deeply personal topic today, brought to you by Mind Retirement. Mind Retirement is a dedicated company committed into fostering mental well-being, personal development, and empowerment through the range of programs that is offered, resources, and retreat. Mind Retirement is an institute that guides the individual in transformative journey towards self-discovery, healing, a balanced, fulfilling life. It is founded by the founder, Puseletso Modimogale, in 2016, and she is the author of the upcoming book called Healing the Mother Wound. That will be launched on the 9th of August, 2024. Motherhoods are complex and an aspect of our emotional landscape. And in this discussion, we intend to foster understanding, the empathy, and we want to understand, most importantly, healing. Whether you are joining us or as someone who's experienced motherhood, a supporter or a curious soul seeking insight, you are welcome. Through this session, we'll be delving into various aspects of healing, drawing personal stories from expert insights, and your valuable contribution is really, really needed. We aim to create a safe and exclusive space where your authenticity and vulnerability is celebrated. I encourage everyone to actively participate in sharing your thoughts, your questions, and experiences in the comments section. Your input will not only be crucial and the richness of it, but it is welcome. So let's embark on this journey in fostering connections, understanding, and ultimately healing. Without further ado, let's dive into the exploration of healing motherhoods with the Mind Retirement Institute. I'm not alone, and I'm never alone. Today, we have a special guest. We have, I can just say, the rose amongst all the thorns that we had. We will call ourselves the woman, the thorns, because you are the first men that actually joined us today. Nihleli Nomfundisi, Ubaba Wethu, the founder, the speaker of Mindset Development Institute, Pastor Baba Jabu Zwane. Welcome, Baba.
Thank you so much, Tshegofatso, for welcoming me. I'm excited to be on your platform and privileged. Looking forward to sharing some, very important discussion, I suppose, about.
We really. Nyabonga Baba kakhulu for joining us. It is really a privilege and an honor to have you kusho yetu. And as a pastor, a man of God, we understand when you talk about prayer, really God does listen and he answers. And namhlanje he did answer our prayers by letting, at least, because it's always been women. It's always been women that are always standing up. And having you here, God listens. So sibonge kakhulu. Without further ado, Baba, can you just share with us about your personal journey of motherhood and tell us who is Mr. Jabu Zwane?
Well, yes, Jabu Zwane, grew up in the Free State. I grew up actually more as Mosotho than as Zulu. So there is always that thing of, people talking to me in isiZulu. I understand it, I can speak it okay, but I'm more Mosotho than I am Zulu. Yeah, I grew up on my mother's side, but around the age of 6, she had to go work as a domestic worker out there in the Vaal somewhere in Gauteng. So then most of my life I grew up without her being around due to that whole distance factor. So currently I'm married. I'm in a mixed family. We've got 5 children together. My wife has 2 kids from a previous marriage, and I've got 3 from mine. Both of our previous spouses have actually are both deceased. And so we came together, then we're raising 5 children together, 4 boys and a girl. And as I've said, I'm a pastor. I'm also active in the space of healing in a form of mindset development specialist. I did a lot around the issues of how people think and what affects the way that people think, and what about the way we think leads to us having either an easier life, a difficult life, and what can we do about it? So that's what I'm talking about.
No, that's great, Baba. Ngiyajabula because we so who Sesotho, and you are so right because Mina all I saw was Jabu Zwane, and I'm thinking, Rito Kuluma, you know, if we are kuluming, we are just going to be talking the English. Mariki Tumela, because at least the Mind Retirement Institute accommodate kaofela, so we can speak every language that we feel comfortable in. So mole le mole ke tla nna ke latlhela Sotho, mole ke bue Sezulu, but because we can hear each other, it will be nice to just flow together. You know, and as a founder, Sandy, you're a founder of Mind Development Institute. What inspired you to focus on healing motherhood within the coaching and the teachings that you carry on an everyday life?
Look, I mean, I think the majority of South Africa, whether we want to admit it or not, quite a lot of us have been affected by the absence of parents, predominantly of the fathers, but there's also the reality of a lot of our mothers were not around when we were growing up, right? And because of apartheid again, quite a lot of our mothers either had to go work very far as domestic workers, even in factories, even as teachers, because geographically speaking, we all know what happened during apartheid, that those commercial areas were put so far away from black areas. And so as a result, parents had to then go work very far. And so typically then that's what happened with me. And I think most of us don't realize that we are hurt as children until we are adults. We don't realize the pain, the wounds that we've got until they play out in our adulthood in a form of dysfunction, in a form of emotional triggers, in a form of certain emptiness, gaps within our soul that we don't know that actually there are gaps. Until one gets into the space of consciousness, of healing, of speaking these matters in this way, the majority of the people don't really even know that they're hurt, that they're wounded, that their behaviors actually are as a result of what happened when they're younger. And I noted that myself as a pastor in the business of healing people through the Word of God, through loving people, and realizing that as much as I am loving people, that I'm still myself I still don't know exactly what love was, right? And that's how I got into the whole thing. That's how I got into understanding that a lot of the way I live my life is not because I'm not a hard worker that I don't get certain things done, or that I haven't had opportunities, or that I haven't had people that have been necessarily there for me outside of my family. But a lot of it had to do with my own experiences that I didn't fully understand how they impacted me. So that's where I started the Mindset Development Institute to help people, to help myself as I'm helping people unpack their own pain.
And is this how you also became a pastor? Because, and you know, the difficult thing as a pastor is everyone is looking up to you. Everyone sees you as a perfect person. Everyone, you know, gets to a point that they just worship the ground you walk on. You know, not understanding which now umuntu, you know, there are things that you are dealing with. When you are faced with such challenges, Baba, how do you navigate through them?
Look, I mean, I think it's always a matter of understanding. What is the base of your understanding? Somewhere down the line, I got to understand that the reason why people like pastors, people like coaches, people like leaders, they are exalted. It's in a way people escape. They escape their life through you. There is the desire for that peace, the desire for that maximum functionality in their lives. There's a desire to say that things are going to get better. And then when you see somebody that seems to have things better, there's almost like an exaggerated outpouring of hope that is placed on you as you carry everybody else's desire with you. I don't know if that makes sense, you know? And as a result, because you're also given an opportunity by God for whatever reason to live out that healing, then people wish that you are more than you. They wish that you are more than you are, and that's why then you actually end up. That's why you end up having to carry so many people on your back, and that's just part and parcel of. It's just part and parcel of life. It's not just in the. It's not just in the pastoral context, by the way. It is also in the movies. If you think about the movies, you've got Superman, you've got Batman, you've got all kinds of heroes that people, all of us, we are vicariously living through this avatar of a perfect person that overcomes the odds, that eventually gets the evil person, that eventually brings in justice in the world, that eventually finds love. You know, most of the heroes end up finding love and they walk into the sunset and they end up living happily ever after. And there's a reason why at the end of those movies, they don't show the life after that, because they want you to end up, they want you to end up with that understanding or with that mind, with that image of perfection after the person finds love or after the evil person has been defeated or justice has been achieved. And so understanding that is crucial. And then understanding then therefore that you also have to have your own place of refuge, your own place of where you can receive life, where you can also receive counsel, receive wisdom, receive understanding, where you don't always have to censor yourself, where you can just be a human being and be yourself. And so having your own coaches, own pastors, own mentors is crucial.
Okay, we have a question, Babalana. How did the motherhood manifest itself in your adult years? How did it impact your relationship, work, or in ministry?
For me, I think I realized at some point that I feared that whoever I was with, that my wife is going to leave at some point, and as a result, I would not fully commit. I would always and have an expectation that at some point they're going to leave, because obviously when I was growing up, my mother was not there. Specifically because of one particular incident. One particular incident was that my mother got remarried, and then I was about 6, going to start sub A at the time. We called it sub A, which is grade 1. And I remember traveling with her to the Vaal, just working from the Free State, to go and stay with this man in these beautiful places where these government houses that were sponsored by Eskom at the time, Eskom at the time. And I was there for about 1 week or so, too. And then next thing you know, I was coming back. I was being taken back home. And that's probably because of I don't know, maybe there were disputes between her and my stepfather at the time, and then I found myself back home by myself and her not being around. And I can remember these very well. My first day at school, just confused about why am I here by myself and my mother's not around. And that would then happen to be the case for the rest of my life. And so as a result, one of the ways that the mother wound presented itself is that I always had a fear that the women in my life are going to leave. And therefore I wouldn't fully commit. And then and then I would have exaggerated demands. I was very needy of love, needy of assurance. Constantly looking to see where are the gaps in this love that they're promising me. Where are the inconsistencies, and really make a big deal about that and be very finicky about what they're not doing and what it means and what it doesn't mean. And you know what I mean? That's how it manifests itself in me.
All right, but unless I don't know if you can hear me because I feel like I'm buffering. But there's another question. Okay, how did you discover your pain, and how did it feel then before taking on the journey of healing?
Honestly, I didn't realize that I had the pain. I didn't realize that there was pain. For me, it was just normal. It was just normal to not trust, not to believe in love in that way. Because I mean, the primary framework of love is between you and your mother, every child. The most important framework of, especially security, of nurturing, of being comforted. That framework comes from the mother and the mother and the child framework. And because I'd never had that. For me, it was normal not to feel that. I didn't realize that that's what I was missing all these years. I think, I think it impacted me a lot when I was going through a very difficult time at my age 37, and my mother was trying to be there for me. And I was 37 years old at the time, and I didn't know how to let her be there. I didn't know how to just to be a son, because I'd never been a son to her. I couldn't know how to allow her to be a mother to me. And I was very snappy. I was very short with her. You know, I was almost to the point of being rude. Thankfully, my personality was I'm not rude, but I can tell you that I was tempted many different times to say to me, "Why are you trying to do this now? It's almost too late," type of thing. So I needed to understand that. I think it was at that point that I realized that I'm hurt and I need to forgive and I need to begin to work through what had happened.
All right, well, just before you answer this question, just the last question from one of the users, ne? Because I understand you are the co-author of the upcoming book that is coming in April, right? Which is Healing from Motherhood, and it's co-authored by you and it's set to release in April. What motivated you to write this book, and what can the readers expect it going forward? Because we have a reader who's asking, were you able to discuss with your mother how you were affected by the upbringing? Or is it a healing journey that you just embarked it on your own, and this is why maybe you are part of this upcoming book that will be released in August?
Okay, that's a lot. Let me start off by answering your first question. Well, I mean, the invitation for me to contribute to any kind of work that does healing, I almost welcome it. I always welcome it. Like again, I never really thought of it to that degree of the mother wound in the way that we understand it now. But I think that it's important again to label certain things so that we can have a right context about how they impact us. And so that's why I agreed to then write a portion or a chapter in this book to share to people about my journey. Because there is an untold story, especially there's an untold story of Black men that didn't grow up without their mothers because of apartheid, and the pain that we feel, and the inabilities that we have, the inabilities to trust, to commit, the fears that we've got that the women that we're with are going to leave. And as a result, it's almost like in a way you embark on some dysfunctional behavior where you know, yeah, you don't fully commit, and you think that it's okay. And of course, the unrealistic expectations that you place on your romantic partners as well, because you don't realize that you're trying to make them be your mother and to make up for what your mother has done. And I think I wanted to talk about that. I wanted to talk about how important it is that for men like myself, not to take out the sadness and the lack of love and the pain that they experience growing up onto their partners, because they've got nothing to do with it. And they're not, as much as it's true that marriage is an incubation of healing, but your wife is not necessarily your emotional healer, right? So that's what they can expect from the book. That's what they can expect from the book. And I mean, I don't feel the need, I never felt the need to have a chat with my mother about this, because I realized that she had a lot of guilt, and I realized that she herself is struggling with her own pain of not having been there for me. And I think for me that's enough. Seeing somebody who loves you would not toil and be tormented in that way. Or if who didn't love you, they would not toil and be tormented in that way. And I think for me, understanding love in that way, I'm okay with it. I don't have to discuss anything more with my mother. I have to continue to heal in my own way and be there for her in the best way that I possibly can. Thankfully, she is very responsive to that, and she doesn't try to take advantage of it. And so it works. It's good for me.
All right. So, as a father by yourself, has your own personal healing journey influenced your approach on the parenting or the nurturing of your own children? Because you know
Yeah,
how it is.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it has more to do with, especially my father. The fact that my father was not around. And it's not that he wasn't around. My father was not mentally unwell, and he was not mentally fit to be a parent. And so even today, I don't even know where he is now, but that absence, that whole living without your parents around, it can be, it's sad. And so there's a certain level of urgency in the way of I parent my kids, the desire to be there present. And when certain things happened in my life where it became difficult for me to be there, it's probably the most tormenting situation I've ever had to go through, and I continue to go through. I don't have the time to speak about that now, but again, it was another tragedy that happened, which in the end ended up with a situation where they ended up being at a boarding school and not being with me in the way that I would love them to be. But I also understand this, having grown up without parents, that moments with your kids matter more than how long you're with them. Because I remember one particular incident with my dad, where I met him on the street once. We lived in the same township, and he came around. My father's family lived about maybe a kilometer away, not even that long, maybe 700, 800 meters away from where I lived. And then he was around, and then he met me on the street, and then he gave me 20 cents. Back in the days, 2 bob, those big silver 20 cents. He gave me that thing. And I remember that moment very well. It was one of the most, it was the only moment that I had with him of affection.
Yes.
And then for that reason, and I think it sustained me for pretty much most of my childhood. And it is from that understanding in my mind that you can spend all the time you want with your kids as far as the length of time, but if it is not quality, if it is not meaningful, if it is not exchange of love and creation of moments, it might as well not even happen. If anything, it becomes a great source of sadness for kids to have a parent who's not emotionally available. So whenever I'm with my kids, I'm emotionally available. I have a great time with them. We create a lot of memories. We play a lot of games. I ask them a lot of questions. We engage a lot. And even though they're boarding school, three, 4 times a week, we are on the phone and we speak 20, 30 minutes. And ultimately, that's a lot more important, to as a parent. So that's how it has impacted me.
So you'll find, Uguti, there are people that are actually going through this healing journey, but they don't even know how to go about it. What advice would you give to the individuals who are just beginning their healing journey from the mother wound?
I mean, I think that word is important. It's a journey. It's a journey.
Yes.
The thing is that you have to believe. You have to start the journey, right? And then in the journey, be curious. Be curious about what the journey entails. Don't judge it. Be curious about how you're feeling yourself. Be curious about the way you're feeling, and then be aware of how you're feeling. Don't immediately assume because of feeling a certain way that it is something is wrong. Whatever you're unfamiliar with will create certain degrees of discomfort. It's okay for things to be uncomfortable, but understand that the more you engage with this uncomfortable process, at some point you're going to find a point of comfort, a point of familiarity, a point of predictability and stability. But for that to happen, though, there's got to be some degree of discomfort that will have to happen in the beginning. So don't quit because of you feeling uncomfortable, confused, and you're feeling like you're having to relearn how to live again. Because you are. You're learning how to have a parent at a much older age when you never had one. And unfortunately, your level of understanding, your level of intellect, the emotional scars that you have got, that high level of consciousness makes it again a lot more complicated. And that's why you got to be curious. That's why you got to ask yourself questions about how do I get this thing done. If I need to go for therapy, then go for therapy. If you need to go for counseling, then go for counseling. If you need to sit down and have a dialogue with your parent, do that. But understand that older people are not as conversational as we are, and they come from a different age. They come from an era where dialogue did not happen in the way that you and I are having dialogue right now. And don't label that and desire for that to be any different. Try, if it doesn't work out, then embark on a different journey of healing that may not necessarily include getting the
Include
answers.
them.
You know what I mean? You might not get those answers because they themselves probably were overwhelmed, they didn't understand it, they were with guilt, and there's still quite a lot of confusion that is still very much part of their own existence. And the fact that they're not able to express and give you what you want can also be creating pain for them as well. So a little bit of compassion is also important. So curious compassion, asking questions and not being so hell bent on wanting to show how much you've been hurt. You know, ultimately that's not going to help you, and that's not going to help them either.
That's true. We've got a question, Lana, but as a pastor, what do you think can be done, Baba, or should be done to get the church to a point where such issues can freely be spoken about? Or do you think the church is equipped enough to deal with such issues? Because we see a church as a healing place, we see a church of growth spiritually, but most people are now no longer going to church because they'll be saying, we've not left God, we've just left the church because of so much judgmental and things that are happening esontweni.
I mean, look, I'm not gonna beat around the bush. Most of the church is ill-equipped to deal with pain. We don't know what healing is. We don't know how to heal other people. We know it by theory. We know it using all sorts of verses, but totally ill-equipped. And I'm a firm believer in the fact that pastors need to be taught. They need to go for counseling themselves. They need to get qualified in counseling techniques and skills. And or at the very least, I believe that using the same Bible, there has got to be some kind of biblical framework of counseling, and there's got to be a certain level of ensuring that whoever gets involved in that ministry of healing in the church, can be held accountable, open to grow, and has compassion. Compassion is a crucial component of healing. You don't just put somebody in there just because they know the Bible and they've been around the church for a very long time and they kind of exhibit some kind of a moral righteousness and impunity in a way, or faultlessness. You know what I mean? Like you put people in there that have the heart for people, but then having a heart for people is not enough. You have to train the people. You have to give them tools and skills on how to heal, how to communicate with compassion, how to ask questions from the point of compassion and curiosity, how to guide gently people, how to navigate the emotional sensitivities that come with with being so delicate emotionally after you've been healed. More so coming to a church where you're expecting a certain degree of sensitivity and skill and softness, but then you don't find that. Instead, you find the harshness of judgment or of distance. And somebody just says, you know what? Don't worry, all things will work together for good. Or don't worry, God made it happen for a reason. I mean, for me, all those things are such a misrepresentation of God's love. Like for me, the whole idea that God will allow you to suffer, go through something, to prove something, I think is completely messed up. It's not true. God will just allow you to go through something because He wants to teach you a lesson. God has more creative ways of teaching us lessons. The reality is that, yes, we live in a world that is totally imperfect and that has a lot of pain. People are imperfect. The world is imperfect. The systems we live in are imperfect. And there are many things that can happen to us. And they don't happen to us necessarily because we've done anything wrong. We've not pissed off God. We've not done anything wrong. We're just in a world that is completely imperfect and that's messed up. And the thing is that pain can happen to you in any moment. Whether you were expecting it or not, it can happen. So we don't have to pray. We don't have to pray for people to be delivered, and you have to be delivered from pain and to be protected from these things that we trying to protect them from, but they're still happening anyway. And when they're happening, we abscond ourselves from responsibility and say, but maybe you didn't believe enough. Maybe God is trying to teach you a lesson. For me, that's I don't believe that's how God is. I don't believe that's not the kind of I understand and know and I read about in the Bible. And I totally believe that, I mean, there's a call for us as a church to come together and say, how do we put together a mandate of healing and how do we put our people on the training so they can become better healers?
Amen. We have we mentioned earlier on when you started how you discovered your pain when you are older. We have a user here who's saying she does not even know if it's normal because she does not know how she feels about her parents. Her dad was there by name, her mother inflicted the pain, and she only discovers she's been carrying it less than 6 months ago at the age of 50. So, what advice could you say to her? Does she start her healing journey now? Is it too late for her? Or how does it navigate through the pain that she's now feeling? Would say, no, man, I'm not okay.
Look, it's never too late to heal. Honestly, it's never too late to start healing. I would say that. Like, it's normal not to know what to do because you don't know what to do. And that is why I'm saying be compassionate on yourself and just by God's grace, take the first step in your journey and be curious about the journey and ask questions about the journey. Don't judge anything prematurely. Don't judge anything prematurely because of you feeling uncomfortable about what's going on. That's what part of it is, that you get a professional, get somebody who can walk you through the journey and take you through the journey in a strategic way, in a way that will be sensitive to your triggers, to your struggles, to your confusion, whatever many different elements that may be part of that journey. It's always very helpful to do that. And especially if it's a very sensitive situation, try and get somebody who's very professional. Sometimes the challenge with us counselors, and I say because I'm not a therapist, I'm not a psychologist, is that because we don't necessarily have a code of conduct that gives us a framework of boundaries in terms of how we counsel people, we can put in too much of our own personal opinions into what the person is going through, and you don't want somebody counseling you through their personal opinions without being properly equipped to take you through the journey. You want somebody that has at least some kind of a proven framework on how to navigate that very difficult terrain.
And someone professional to actually do it, because sonke sithanda ukuthi we can be of listening ear, but because we are not trained, somehow it makes it difficult to even walk through the journey of this person, because but had they then sought help from a professional, it would have been easy. We've got a question here. One of the listeners who's saying, did the fear of abandonment or commitment issue not cause you to build an emotional wall? Because was it easy for you as a pastor to just break down, that emotional wall and build it to protect? How do they build themselves to protect themselves from it?
Honestly, I think for me it was very different because I grew up without a lot of parental or even guardian protection and involvement, and I grew up in a very volatile emotional environment for different reasons I can't speak about now. I learned at a very young age to emotionally regulate myself because I understood that if I'm crying, nobody's going to wipe my tears. If I'm sad, nobody's going to say, "Hey, how are you doing?" Like, I mean, I would grow up in situations where feeling very sad, and as a kid, you overdo the sadness thing to try and get attention so that somebody can attend to you. You know how kids do that, right? I would do those kind of things, but nobody would see that about me or attend to me in that way. And there's a point where you get that message you're not going to get that from anybody. So you need to find a way to soothe yourself. You need to find a way to suck your thumb. You need to find a way to just regulate yourself emotionally speaking. I think where the wall happened, or maybe what made it difficult sometimes for me to be emotionally available, was because I was not trusting of those types of relationships close to me, especially in my first marriage, before my first wife passed on. There was a very big portion of that marriage where I was not emotionally available to her. And I can remember this very well. There was a point where I was like, but what am I worried about? What am I worried about? This person is here, they care for me, they love me, they haven't moved away. So why am I still torturing myself with this whole fear that they're gonna go away? And I remember when I shifted that, the way that I experienced my marriage, the way I experienced her changed. And when I get married to my second wife, I was completely You know, I had learned from that, and I was completely, wholly emotionally available. Probably maybe to the point where it was even overwhelming, especially after the urgency of understanding that this thing can end at any given moment. So I need to be there. I need to be available. I hope that
Mm.
answers.
So, what advice, Baba, would you then give to an individual, or maybe could you share a powerful moment of or realization from your own healing journey, that was just very significant, and impacted you in a very positive way?
Honestly, I won't say that it's a. Yeah, well, I suppose there's a moment, but it's not just been a moment, but it's been a very long occasion. I realizing that God loves me. When I learned about God's love, it completely changed my life. When I understood that His love for me is unconditional, it does not prescribe any conditions, and it is self-sacrificial, and there is no expectation for me to return that love, but it is at my own agency. When I do return, when I reciprocate that love, then it becomes the reciprocal exchange of affection in a way that I can never understand. I don't know how to. Most of the time, I don't know how to understand it. But I also know this that the greatest experience of God's love for me has been through people. It has been through me availing myself to the degree that I can unconditionally to other people, and then them responding to that love as I make that love available to them. That's where the church for me has been the greatest place of healing, because in my healing other people, I also began to be healed. In my loving them and having the courage to love them, even though I understood full well that at their very agency level, they could very easily reject me and not love me in return. But when they did, it's an experience that I cannot explain. It's an experience that I cannot equate to anything that I know in the world. And hence, even for me as a Christian, I mean, I believe that the church has been the greatest source of healing, regardless of all of its imperfections. As much as there's been a lot of pain that I've experienced through the church, and a lot of betrayal and confusion I've experienced through the church, but I can say that I would never be the person that I am today had it not been for the many Christians that came across the way that gave their life for me in a way that nobody else that had the natural right or the blood connection to me could have done. And so I understand because of that, that love is a voluntary, it's a decision that you make. You decide to love people. You can have many, many hundreds, you can have millions of reasons not to love people, but the thing is that you can decide to love people for one person for one reason, and that one reason can sustain that love, and you can be able to overcome the thousand other reasons that may be the reason why you should not love. And for me, that's what I'm saying, that it's my relationship with God. It's this occasion of continuous relationship of love, of healing, of understanding, compassion, of unfolding and manifestation of who I am and the becoming of who I am as a person that has been the most profound experience for me.
Mm-hmm. Baba, it is said hore bana ba ba tswileng tseleng, they actually just seeking attention. Do you believe in that? Hore ka nnete bana ba tswile tseleng, or ka nnete as parents, we are not listening to our kids. We are not making time for bone. We are not talking to them, and we are not giving them the attention we know hore they deserve.
Look, it's very possible that could be the reason why, but the thing is that what's Tselaki? You know what I mean? Who decides what not Tselaki? And I think that's where, for me, the issue is. The issue is in the fact that so many of us seek some kind of a perfection which doesn't exist. And the reality is that we live in a world, man. We live in a country, we live in a continent that is full of a lot of pain, a lot of oppression, a lot of hurt, a lot of bad things have happened to a lot of us, whether it be black, white, Indian, especially, of course, we know our pain as black people. Now, who's to say how we're supposed to behave, how we're supposed to deal with that? And I think that sometimes as parents, we get so lazy to understand fully what children are going through, and we can just, take advantage of our authority and of our power and of our dominance, and as the most powerful people in that equation of the relationship, we can literally use our privilege to not allow the kids to go through what they need to go through, to teach them what they need to learn, to ask ourselves, beyond just punishing this child, what lesson do I want to teach them? And how can I best teach them this lesson? How does a child learn? A child doesn't learn like an adult. You don't tell a child something once and they get it. And you get these parents that want to just tell child something once, and if they don't get it, then they're gonna get it next time. Like, who decided that that's the way for you to raise that child, right? And so ultimately, as you said, some kids then, when they realize that there is no space for them to make mistakes, there's no space for them to learn, to ask questions, and to explore this world and make mistakes, then of course, then they're gonna go and explore their curiosity and they're gonna use it somewhere else. In fact, that in the end, we never show them the way. In some cases, so they never saw the way. Then how can you walk on a road that is not carved out for you, that you've not been shown? So there is a degree of truth to what you're saying, you know, and I don't believe that a child just decides to become naughty as if they've been possessed by some demonic force. Oftentimes, it is a reflection of some kind of, a pain, deficit, dysfunction, need inside of them that we as parents we should walk, we should go down, kneel in front of them, look them in the eye, and seek to understand where is it our words they need? Is it a touch on the shoulder that they need? Is it a hug that they need? Is it our showing presence of warmth and care that they need? And do we have the courage to do that, the humility to do that? Do we care enough to do that? Or are we so important, so busy that conveniently we just don't want to do it?
All right. We have a question here just before we close off. One of the users is saying, besides a relationship with your late wife, are there any other relationships that were damaged by your mother wound? Relationships that you are healing from, maybe where you felt that you need to go and apologize and mend?
No, I mean, I don't think so. I mean, I don't even think that necessarily even with my first relationship that I was damaging in any way. I've always been loving and caring in my own way. I had my own fears as far as opening up. I didn't necessarily give the woman a hard time. It made it harder for her to love. In my own mind, I would have had these thoughts in my own mind, right? Um, I don't think. I think I've always had a very sensitive heart towards people in that way. So, I mean, if there's anything that I needed to do, was actually, um, yeah, I'm very hard on myself in terms of the way that I love. I'm very, very hard on myself. I'm very critical. I sit and I can really be angry with myself for failing to do certain things. And I'm learning to take it easy, And because I am like that, I suppose also that I can tend to have a high expectation then from other people to be like me. Because let's face it, we all treat people based on how we are. Perhaps there is a high expectation, but at the same time, there is a high expectation with an understanding that it might not work. And unfortunately, then I would err more on the side of it might not work and not have some expectations. And then here's the danger. Here's a danger of not having expectations. For those of you that say, oh, expectations are so bad, let me tell you the danger of not having expectation. If you have no expectation, you have no anticipation. If you have no anticipation, you have no enthusiasm. If you have no enthusiasm, you can be very detached from the situation. And then if you are detached, you can be indifferent. And if you're indifferent, there is a very dangerous place that you can be in. The most dangerous place for a human being to be in is the place of apathy.
Yeah.
Apathy. The opposite of love is not fear, it's apathy. Because apathy is the absence of thought about anything. You have no feeling, you have no mind about anything. Whether something happens or not, it means absolutely nothing. And apathy is one of the top traits of narcissists and psychopaths. And so you are setting yourself up for a narcissistic tendency or traits the moment that you say, I have expectations. So the only thing that I'll say is that then have healthy, reasonable, thought out expectations. It's okay for you to expect your person to return the love. It's okay for you to expect for them to say thank you when they don't do something good for them, to say sorry when they do something, right? All of those things, I mean, it's okay. It's okay for you to have expectations. But the moment you don't have the expectation, I'm sorry. For me, the moment that somebody says I have no expectation, I worry about that relationship because there's only a lot of time before it doesn't exist.
Exactly. So nje ha hore re ska rana re kena ka matwa ska no kena relationshiping o ntse o nahana morago ke mathata. You just go in and just be truthful about what is it. Have expectation and move on, because how else are you not going to have expectations? Because you went in there with a feeling of understanding for it. I think I like this person, or I'm in love with this person, and there's a vision Korean thing. So expectations, you're saying, Baba, let's have expectations, but let's have a healthy expectation.
I mean, you have to have it because why else are you living? Why else are you getting up in the morning? You're expecting to get to work. You're expecting to get paid. You're expecting to succeed in life. Our life, expectation is a crucial component of faith. Faith is the substance of things that are hoped for. So expectation is a crucial component of hope. So the moment you have no expectations, it means you have no hope. You have no hope in what you're doing. And the moment you have no hope, as Romans 8:24 says, that you are dying, you are dead even though you live when you have no hope. The crucial part is that, first of all, learn how to choose the right partner. Learn how to choose the right partner. Stop living unconsciously and expecting this Hollywood romantic thing of thinking, if I have butterflies in my stomach, then they're the right person. Well, sometimes butterflies are actually a warning to say this person is dangerous. It's an intuitive response to the energy in their body that says this person is possibly potentially dangerous. That's why the dangerous love of butterflies becomes the most destructive love in your life, because your system is saying to you, watch out, this is not a very good situation for you, because you're losing your control. Because your body knows the moment you surrender your senses to the situation, when you're no longer applying your mind, because you've allowed, you're no longer engaging your brain to give you guidance and give you understanding on how to deal with potentially dangerous situation. So have expectations, have healthy expectations, have godly expectations for those of you who are Christians. Have people around you that can actually help you to build healthy expectations and question some of the ones that are wrong and say to you, listen, what you're expecting of this Wanunawatu is wrong. And we expect like one people that can say to you, stop being a jerk, be a nice human being, stop being so mean, like really just love, honor the commitment that you've made. And I think that's part of the reasons why many times relationships don't work out, is because you are surrounded by so many wrong people who say so many wrong things. So
Lastly, Papa, before Osama, what words of encouragement? Because I feel like we don't have enough time. What would you like to offer the house that is maybe struggling with their own mother wound and they're seeking for healing? And if people want to get hold of you, Pastor, on which social media platforms?
I am here on Facebook. It's Jabu Zwane. Jabu Zwane speaks, or is this called Jabu Zwane Mindset? You'll find me. On TikTok, I'm Jabu Zwane Talks. That's why I actually do quite a lot of my videos on TikTok and also on Instagram. I've got a website, jabuzwane.com, and that's where you're going to find the different services that I do offer, and also on LinkedIn. And so my parting words are, look, it's very difficult to experience complete healing without God. I don't know what you believe as a human being, but I'm just saying, for me, the number one healer for me is God. It's also very difficult for you to find healing if you don't forgive. The starting point of forgiveness, healing is forgiveness, especially where you've been hurt by other people. Forgiveness is not about condoning your behavior. You're not saying that you were done well, but you're saying that I will no longer give power to this act, to this action that has happened in my life. And then you are giving yourself permission to live again. Because for as long as you are caged in that anger, you are caged in that pain. And by the way, let's be very, very honest. Are you ready for this one?
I'm
Hey, my
listening,
last
boss.
one. I'm gonna give it to you straight, and everybody else is listening. And most people don't want to heal. Most people don't want to heal because they fear that the moment that they heal, they have to be they're open to being hurt again.
Mm.
They don't want to be hurt again. That's why they hold on to the wound because they don't want to be hurt again. That's why they keep on reminding themselves of the wound and then staying in the wound. The moment, every single chance that they get to move away, they'll say, but, Mara, 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 Mara. Because they don't want to heal because they don't want to get hurt again. Listen, heal, get wisdom, get wisdom. Don't be naive. Stop being gullible. You are not a kid. You're not a child anymore. Be an adult. The Bible says in First Corinthians, I think it's 14:20, that be innocent of evil things, but be mature in spiritual things. Like be mature with things of adults, right? Learn to discern, listen to intuition, gather wisdom, gather knowledge, learn how to regulate yourself emotionally, become mentally resilient, have structures around you of mature people. Go to spaces where there is mature life that's happening. Stop continuing to go into these places where there's so much foolishness and childishness. You may think that it's fun and entertaining, but the thing is, whatever you allow in your mind constructs the way you think, and that's what's going to come out in the end. So start being very protective of your mind. Start being protective of your heart. Stop going to and stop allowing yourself to be so easily influenced by bad things. Like you have agency. The number one gift that God has given to you is agency. It's fruition. Use it wisely. Be jealous of that. Guard that with all your heart. And don't allow anybody around you that is gonna make it harder for you to be as mature, as functional, as spiritual, as resilient, as motivated, as disciplined, as principled, as moral as you possibly can be.
So, in other words, let go and let God, and surround yourself with the like-minded and where you want to go. Zwane, what a powerful interview. We look forward to the launch of the book. We look forward to hearing from you, to seeing from you, to learning from you. So, re lebogile thata ka mantswe a gago a re agileng. Re lebogile thata that the journey that you've shared with us through your healing. This is really a beautiful interview that we've had as my retirement. I mean, with all the speakers that came through, we are just excited and looking forward to the launch. And having you here, it's a real pleasure. And thank you so much for the wisdom. Thank you for the words of encouragement. And thank you for taking us through this journey. This is Mosadi, the Mind Retirement host from Healing from Motherhood, and we are with the pastor, Jabu Zwane. Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Have a good evening.
You too.